Welcome everyone. Welcome to Lippy Logic. My name is Dr. David Amron, the host of Lippy Logic, and this is the Lippy Lounge. Today's segment is going to be about tools, technology, and my multi-system approach to liposuction with lipedema. I am not a surgeon who likes to promote gadgets or tools or technology. And I've always said that it's not just about what tool you're using with things. I'm also a surgeon who has done liposuction for over 25 years and come from an extensive background before many of these technologies existed. Definitely a lot of your energy-based technologies like lasers, smart lipo, vaser, skin tightening things, even power-assisted liposuction. I came from a background for many years of just manual cannula liposuction. And actually, it is very good because it teaches you to get really proper technique down, to stay in that safe plane like we've talked about. Liposuction is a very tactile procedure. It really is. It's not just only what you're seeing, it's what you're feeling with things. And I think all those years of doing it the way in which I did it before all these tools and technologies got my skills to a very high level. So again, these tools and technologies are only tools. You've got to get all the skills down properly. I've said for many years that it's much more important to trust the surgeon, not to trust the tools and technology, and I absolutely still feel that same way. It's about proper principles and philosophy and experience and judgment and artistry and the hands. I mean, those things are really so much more important to a great result safely in every patient than a particular tool or technology. The problem is that's not the way people perceive it. It's being marketed and, lunchtime lipo and this machine and that machine, and it's not about that. That's not the way surgery is really about getting a great result. That said, I do have a lot of tools and technology. And I was actually thinking through this. I've got over $2 million of tools and technology in various ways in which I use them. But I'm not a person just to bring something on for just the sake of it. Every step is important. Every step is purposeful. So when I incorporate something into my surgical process is because it has some added value in my hands with things, that I'm able to get a slightly better result because of that thing. But again, it's not about that. One of my poster children for liposuction, a woman named Yasna, who's talked about her surgeries, had an amazing result in the 2 surgeries that I did on her. The same grouping, calves, ankles, and arms, and circumferential thighs. But it was done before anything, before vaser, before any laser or smart lipo, before water-assisted lipo, before power-assisted lipo, before any energy tightening tissue contraction, just really well done liposuction, and it's an amazing result. But it's really a testament to the fact that you can't just depend on these tools. It's about the surgeon and how they go about doing things more than anything. One of the analogies I like to give is a haircut. When you go to a person who's very skilled at doing a haircut, it's not about, nobody asks, so exactly what scissor are you using? That person that does that beautiful haircut just knows how to move through things in the proper way and get a great result with things. And lipo, in a more challenging way, is very much the same thing. So my technique involves 4 or 5 steps. We've talked a lot about this. The first step is the proper preparation of the tissue. The proper terminology is tumescent anesthesia. I do it completely, not only to numb, but to hydrodissect. Another terminology is water-assisted liposuction as part of what you're doing. That is only my first step in the multi-step process. Tumescent anesthesia, to prepare the tissue, to create a bloodless field, to certainly numb completely, to hydrodissect. Step 2 is removal of generally the deeper layer of the fat and a mechanical release of the fibrous tissue that's part of lipedema. I hate to use the word debulking because there's certainly an artistry that goes along with that step too. It has to be done perfectly well. And that further releases fibrosis. That is step 2. Step 3, I brought in many years ago another step to add to it, which is vaser. Vaser is ultrasonic energy. It further helps emulsify the fat and helps further release and melt the fibrous tissue that's part of lipedema. I do find it very helpful, and I use it in virtually every patient to further reduce the fibrosis. One thing very, very good about Vaser, if it's used properly under the skin, it does a great job of releasing the fibrous tissue under the skin and emulsifying and melting the fibrous tissue. It also, in my hands, is a great tool to improve cellulite by the way in which it's emulsifying the fibrous band. So Vaser is the third step, ultrasonic energy. The fourth step is going back for what I call the fine sculpting. It's probably the most important step of the whole process, how that tissue is finely sculpted and finally getting the contour you want to get with smaller cannulas, and finally treating any residual fibrosis that the previous three steps have not done. That's your opportunity there to further release fibrosis with things. So step 4 is the fine sculpting. And the final step is in certain patients, in certain areas that have moderate loss of elasticity. So we've talked about this, that elasticity I break in 3 categories: great elasticity, moderate loss, or profound loss of elasticity. If somebody has great elasticity, they don't need that additional skin or tissue tightening step. It tightens up beautifully. Or in certain areas like calves and ankles, where the tissue generally is fairly taut to begin with, unnecessary step to get further results. On the other end of the spectrum, somebody has profound loss of elasticity, just too much looseness, thin, wrinkly, hanging skin. It's a wasted step. That person needs to be moving more towards a surgical tightening procedure. It's your mid-level area. People have moderate loss of elasticity that don't really need an arm lift or thigh lift procedure, that can benefit from further tissue tightening that I employ that 5th and final tightening step at the time of the surgery. And there's a couple of different devices I use for that tightening step with them. So let's go to a slide from a talk that I did several years ago, again at FDRS, which runs through different modalities and gives you an idea of where they are in terms of each important component of liposuction surgery. So on the left part of this slide, you're going to see the different areas of improvements. Number 1 is fibrous release. Number 2 is emulsification, which is sort of melting the tissue, the fat of the fibrotic tissue. Number 3 is tissue contraction. Number 4 is the improvement of cellulite. And number 5 is how it works against certain other nodules, or when I use it in Derkham's disease, which is a separate discussion, and how I use certain technology to improve Derkham's, which is a condition that is a separate condition of painful lipomas in the skin. And on the top of this, you see the different modalities that are used. Wall is a tool by itself, but it's part of what I call tumescent anesthesia. Vaser is the ultrasonic energy. Power-assisted liposuction is liposuction with a vibrating end mechanically. Laser is another tool that I use in certain patients at a high peak temperature. And then radio frequency and ionized helium gas are tissue contraction techniques. And this is rated on 1 to 5 stars. And I don't want to, take the time to go through every single box because there's exactly 30 boxes here. But you get a sense of where each thing lies. Vaser, for example, is very, very good. 4 stars in fibrous release. It's 5 stars in emulsification of tissue. Power-assisted liposuction, when used properly in the right hands, is excellent at fibrous tissue release. Vaser is really great, 4 stars in terms of improving cellulite. Some of these tissue tightening modalities are really good for tissue contraction. They get 5 stars in those to help contract the tissue thermally. So this is a really good summary in terms of different modalities and their usages and how I go about doing liposuction surgery. So I hope that was informative. My name is Dr. David Amron. This is Lippy Logic, the Lippy Lounge. Thank you so much for tuning in.